I'm here with Nichole Wagner, who has a brand new album out titled Plastic Flowers. And this is Nicole's third album. I think one of them was an EP. This is more of a formal album. And it's just simply a great album by an artist with an incredible voice. And I'm really surprised that we haven't heard more about Nichole until now. Well, for me anyway, until now. So, Nichole, you let's talk about your growing up and where you grew up and how you got involved in this whole music scene.
Sure. I grew up in a really small, technically a village in Colorado. It had been an old company town for the DuPont dynamite factory. In the mid 70s, they shut down the factory. And by the late 80s, people had started moving into the town that hadn't worked at the factory. And my parents were some of the people who bought a house in that town because it was, a little bit more remote. It had a lot of open space around it. It seemed like a good place to raise kids, not in the city. Still only about an hour from Denver, a little bit less. So it had kind of the best of both worlds. We got to go into town to see shows. Red Rocks was a place we went a lot when I was a kid. We were still out in the country and all the benefits of space and getting to play outside and do all kinds of things. So growing up, music was very present in our house. My parents had a really, really great record collection, which I've borrowed with the intention of never returning several of them. My dad knows about it. It's okay. He's given them officially to me now, but so it listened to like all kinds of really great music when I was growing up. So I never really had to discover a lot of artists. People like John Hyatt and Joni Mitchell and Graham Parsons and Bonnie Raitt were all just existing all of the time, just from day one for me. And, the first show they took me to, I was maybe 2.5, nearly 3. And we went to Red Rocks to see George Thorogood and the Destroyers. So it was always present, but we didn't have music that we played so much in the house. In terms of like making our own music. I'd make up songs and I had one of those tape recorders with like the microphone attached that I'd, interview people with and make up songs and play them back on. But outside of a piano that they had gotten from a church, we didn't really have any instruments that were around to play. I took the occasional piano lesson, but never really had any sort of like kind of formal training on piano. And so kind of grew up loving music, but not knowing how to make that a path to follow. I thought that at some point somebody would just come knock on the door and be like, we heard you singing in your bedroom. So do you want to come join the next Fleetwood Mac? And that's not how it works, as it turns out. So I took a pretty long path to get to actually playing. Bought myself a guitar when I graduated high school and proceeded to learn, a few chords and could get about halfway through a couple songs, but didn't really take it up seriously until kind of after college, after moving to Austin, and meeting just a bunch of musicians that were operating at a level that I could see how that worked. That, they were like, you learn some songs and then you play those songs at an open mic and then you meet some people and then you eventually book a gig and then you're doing it. So that's what I did.
So you've done what so many artists do. And I'm so happy you made the smart decision to finish college and to, I read somewhere that you did, you majored in journalism.
Yeah.
So that was a smart thing to do. And you always have that, and I'm assuming you're working also in to make money, as everybody does. You have to make money. I'm
Yeah.
assuming that you're working. Are you working in journalism also, or
I'm not.
no?
I ran an online magazine for about 8 years after college, and then freelanced quite a bit. But I also learned how to code through the Girl Scouts.
Oh,
So I do kind of tech work on the side of music right now.
great. So, but you're still continuing to perform music.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know by the way, Nichole's website, it's NicholeWagner.com or
That'll get you there.
NicholeWagnerMusic.com.
Both will work.
Okay. Just Google Nichole Wagner and it'll take you to her website. There are, 10 tracks on the album? Yeah. 10 tracks. They're all original songs and they are just great songs. I don't know what else to say about it. Let's see here. Away with It.
Yeah. It's another song about addiction. I co-wrote this song with my friend Jeremy Parsons out of San Antonio. We met very briefly at a show just before the pandemic started. And we mentioned dogs earlier. I had my 2 dogs at that show. And so I was kind of juggling like a lot of things and wasn't really super paying attention to like who I was meeting. And so I met him, but kind of like put it in the back of my mind as like, he's just a person. He sent me a message on Instagram maybe a year or 2 later after that and said, hey, let's write a song together. And I was like, I don't remember who you are. Like, no. Absolutely. But luckily I got interrupted before I could respond to that message with a no, and came back to it later and was like, maybe. I mean, well, let's maybe. Realizing we could do it over Zoom, so I wouldn't have to like drive to San Antonio or anything. It's like, okay, well, let's try it and see what happens. If nothing happens, it's just an hour. It's no big deal.
Right.
So we set up a Zoom call and talked for, 20, 30 minutes before we started writing the song, and very quickly kind of found some shared experiences around addiction in our lives. And I had this idea for, we're like, okay, now that we've talked and gotten to know each other a little bit better, like, what are we going to write about? So we started going through our individual kind of idea pools and just throwing things out there. And I said, away with it. And he was like, what does that mean? I was like, I don't know. It could mean a lot of things. It could mean you've gotten away with it, or you think you've got, a certain sort of way with things, and having that wordplay gave us a starting point to build the song.
think you got away with it. You almost got away with it. Like you always do. You think you got away with it. You almost got away with it. Like you always do. Like you always do.
Where are you living right now, by the way?
In Austin.
In Austin.
Yeah.
So, you have you been performing in Austin? Do you do the the clubs and things like that? Or I know you do advertise for house concerts, and that's a great way for artists and people to. I wish you lived in this area, and I have you over for a house. One of the songs that also impressed me, aside there's so many songs aside from the title track, the song "Monsters" is kind of blows me away. I think it's such a great song and a great video, by the way. So talk about that one.
Oh, Monsters was the first song that I wrote kind of for this record. I wrote it pretty early on in 2020, and I had a friend whose mother died, and with everything else going on in my personal life at that moment, I really didn't have the space to reach out and be there for them, and that felt really weird. And that was what kind of started the song writing process for me in that. But it's, I don't know, I think it's there's a lot of like kind of visceral emotions that I feel every time I hear that song or play that song, because every verse is a very real and tactile emotion and feeling from that period of time. I quite literally just didn't know what to say to him. His mother had died, and it was COVID times, so he wasn't there and couldn't be there. And I didn't know how to parse all those feelings other than to write them and really sit down with all of the things that maybe before everything slowed down and it was, kind of before times. I used being busy as a way to not have to sit with my feelings as much.
Mm.
I'd fill all my time so I didn't have to think about things. And then everything stopped and all I had was time to think about things.
Mm.
And I think the monsters are those thoughts, the things that you can't get out of your head, the things that keep you up at night.
Very interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great song. Great song. Thank you for that. And this album, again, I'm speaking with Nichole Wagner, whose new album is out now, and she Plastic Flower is the name of the album. And let's talk about some of the songs on the album. Raised by Wolves, which is another quite interesting song. Tell me about that one.
Raised by Wolves is one that really has, I think my understanding of that song has shifted over the past couple of years from when I wrote it to now. The idea that I was raised by wolves was always a bit of an inside joke with some friends, because there's a lot of times where the way that kind of people are expected to act, or the way that people act, especially in groups, or things that everybody else seemed to find very effortless, were not effortless for me and felt very difficult. And some of that I attributed to growing up fairly rural, growing up fairly kind of in a fairly isolated family unit, in a lot of ways, just because of the location. And then also as, going to school, all of the school kids usually lived in like a different city from where we lived. And then with kind of addiction and things in my family, keeping us kind of more tightly connected to just the four of us instead of the larger family. So I attributed a lot of the kind of feeling different to those things. When I wrote the song, that's what I was feeling. And then in the years since then, I've also been diagnosed with some neurodivergencies, and really coming to understand that a lot of that kind of feeling different has a basis in fact, and there's reasons for it. And that now I have a framework to work with it and work kind of through it and accommodate myself better in a way that I didn't have as a kid growing up.
Explain for me, as well as some of the listeners, what you mean by neurodivergence.
So some kind of common ones that fall under that topic would be like ADHD and autism.
Okay.
The different ways your brain works and processes information and maps out the world around you. And when that doesn't match with how the other people in your immediate circle and immediate life are mapping out the world, it can be pretty isolating and feel very disconnected from everybody else.
Swept away by doubt. There's nothing left to give. It's all so intertwined. Carved your name into a tree in a place you'll never find. I'm so tired of running. I'm so tired of being afraid. The things that I was scared of, you turned out the light. Monsters out tonight. Tried to make myself small enough to fit inside your world, slicing bits of flesh to bone till all but disappeared. Then I was ashamed of the damage you had done, so I wrapped my scars in gossamer so you couldn't see the blood. I'm so tired of running. I'm so tired of being afraid. The things that I was scared of, you turned out the light. It's a different kind of monster out tonight. Didn't know what to say to you on the night your mother died. Taste of copper in my mouth and biting on my pride. It's too late to know now if it was just a souvenir that I kept holding on out of love that I feel. I'm so tired of running. I'm so tired of being afraid. Things that I was scared of, you turned out the light. It's a different kind of monster out tonight. Different kind of monster.
let's talk about the title track, Plastic Flowers.
Sure. Plastic Flowers is a lot of times when I write, I will it's like a jigsaw puzzle almost. I have a lot of ideas or lines or words that I heard just out and about that I want to maybe put in a song sometime. So I collect all those, and then when I'm ready to write a song, I'll kind of dump them out on the digital floor as it is and arrange them until they feel like there's a story there. Sometimes I'll have to come up with new lines and fill them in because, I don't have every single line just in the
But
box.
you write these things down, you write the lines down when they come into your head, and then one day you'll assemble them into something, or do you record them?
I email them to myself.
Okay.
I have like a separate email.
That's a good idea, yeah.
So I was trying to like do it in a notebook or like on pieces of paper, and I kept losing them. So I just emailed them to myself, and then I have like an easy place to go search through them and find the pieces that I'm looking for.
That's a great idea. I have to tell Rain about that. No, really, I'm serious. That's a great idea.
It's super helpful. And then I had just gotten out of a therapy session where the suggestion was to, write a letter to the person I was having trouble with in that therapy session. And I've been told that so many times over so many different kind of experiences with therapy. And I've sent some of the letters and I've not sent some of the letters. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it isn't. But I had that kind of thought of, man, I just keep writing all these letters I'm not supposed to send. And that was kind of my starting point, was in that chorus, and then working through kind of, okay, what are some of those letters? And then piecing together a verse for each of those, or a few of those letters that isn't necessarily something that I think you could tie back to, person A, person B, person C. I think they're a little bit more mixed up, but kind of thinking about all those things that you kind of wish you could say, but maybe can't, or it wouldn't be helpful to say. And, filling in some of the other lines around that to more of a narrative. That's the way I wrote that song.
Oh, okay, good.
Very piecing together all of these kind of ideas. And I think it's the most of the songs on the record, it's the most kind of pieced together in that way.
Okay.
But I'd write very typically that way, with maybe a couple lines and a melody in my head. And then I'll go to the parts bin and start digging through to see what else fits and then fill in the gaps.
So that is your writing process. That's the way that you do this and create these songs. A lot of these songs obviously are about heartbreak and relationships that have, collapsed and what have you. But, we all experience them, and it's good for people to hear someone else's approach to things.
Ravens circle overhead, their calls ring out alarm, ward off the sense of danger. got some of my own. Give what you have done. Some things are better left unknown. We're born naked and we die alone. I know what it's like to be on my own. I know you don't believe me, but I was raised by wolves. I learned to gnash my teeth just to survive. I know you don't believe me, honey, but I was raised by wolves. I learned to gnash my teeth just to survive.
All I can say is, Nicole, it was just a great pleasure meeting you, talking to you, and playing your music. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. It's very nice to talk to you. Nice to meet you as well.
Have a great day. Talk
Thank
to
you.
you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Watch one as it falls, hold your breath and make a wish. I should have kissed you when I wanted to. Hesitation, then the moment wasn't right. Jump on